This is a Tracking the Tropics update with the certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.
Well, it's time to track the tropics out
Yes,
here.
I love it. And I love getting to join up with Robert Speta because my man covers it from, I was going to say coast to coast, but I mean truly ocean to ocean. We're going hemispheric. We're going all over the globe. And I love it for this. So where do you, so Robert Speta, Lewis Turner, glad you are with us. So Robert, where are you taking us first?
Well, first we're going to talk about our newest named storm in the Atlantic. Yesterday it was upgraded to a tropical storm. Of course, we got Jerry. Then we're going to talk about a little bit of a nor'easter off of the coast of the United States. That's not associated with Jerry, but right. I think it's going to bring some messy weather. For sure. And then we're going to take a look at the global tropics because I got some imagery that is from a pure, just even if you're just a weather guru, you're going to go, ooh, okay.
That's cool.
That's impressive.
It's very impressive.
So this is the latest update as of 11 a.m. on Jerry here, Lou. And winds now up to 60 miles per hour. You know, it's moving towards the northwest, 23 miles per hour. Pressure's at 1,003. Millibars. The thing I take away from this, though, is it still looks like it's getting that kind of just sheer on its western side here, Lou.
Yeah, pretty cool imagery there. Very flat along its western edge, so indicating some sheer. This is a storm yesterday that looked very impressive, you know, kind of in its infancy as it was just getting its name. Very, very impressive looking storm, and still looking very much like it will get its act together and become a Category 1 hurricane maybe by now this is slowed down a bit because of that shear. Yeah. Yesterday forecasting had us maybe even tomorrow seeing it become a hurricane. Hurricane Center dialing back on that. It could be later on this week, Thursday, Friday, before we see that. Again, I think shear has a lot to do with it. But a pretty good looking storm, and as you kind of look at its current forecast, Robert, encouraging kind of consensus here with a lot of the models.
Yeah, you know, and it's good for like Antigua, those areas in the Eastern Caribbean, because this is a little bit too close for comfort. Yeah. And if we get a lot of shear on this and it is struggling, the western side of it, excuse me, it is the left side is always the weaker side. In this scenario, it definitely would be a lot weaker on the western side of this. So not to say that you want to get rain. I mean, right now they're getting some pretty decent showers in those areas. And if this did just pass towards the north, a little bit too close for comfort, but at least not a direct impact on a lot of those islands. And we're not looking at, you know, rapid intensification coming out of this. But then, you know, there is that high confidence is going to turn towards the north and maybe even near Bermuda, but still looks like most of the guidance does also kind of keep it east of Bermuda as well. Now, there's some big changes between our models today versus yesterday. What do you see out here, Lou?
Yeah, a pretty good cluster of consensus and a pretty good consensus a little bit further to the east from what I was noticing yesterday, so even east of Bermuda. And other than your specific hurricane model on the HMON, HWRF, even a couple of those hurricane models doing some funky things with this and had it kind of exploding. But what we're building confidence in this, even perhaps staying well to the right, to the east of Bermuda. I will say, you know, this part of the world, you know, talking about getting out into the Eastern Caribbean, very popular cruise, very popular vacation spot. I know this really isn't the time of year to be booking those, or maybe you did, and it's like you get them at a discount this time of year when you're thinking, I'm going to go out to St. Thomas, St. Martin, Barbados. We're going to go out towards Puerto Rico or even St. Kitts. I mean, those little islands towards the leeward windwards. This is kind of why you get those discounts because of these recurvers. Now, Robert mentioned those islands probably going to be fine and honestly built for it, you know, or maybe not built appropriately for it, especially a situation like this. But a lot of those islands going to get a little bumpy and already are, you know, this that time of year.
And I think a lot of these storms have been tracking further and further south. This one's not, but I do know like it's like St. Lucia is considered a safe haven. Yeah. And it was a barrel last year. Surprised a lot of people because how far south it did, and it hit some of those areas out there.
That was an early Cat 5, right?
That was a very early Cat 5.
Very strong hurricane.
And like even like insurance companies say, oh, this is a spot, Barbados, you'll be okay there. And those storms move further south. This one doesn't look like it's going to be that case. And in fact, if we just take a look at the satellite imagery, even if we take back the models, you see kind of the cloud cover right like that. That is a clear indicator in the times before numerical guidance. Let's say we just had observations from shipping out there that was saying there's clouds stretching across there. It would be a good indicator that this is going to move towards north and eventually recurve towards northeast just because of the atmospheric flow coming in around it. And then we can bounce over to the ECMWF guidance, giving you a little bit of a kind of a closer view of this. Yeah, it's struggling to develop near the Caribbean. It's not till it starts to get off further towards the north that this particular guidance kind of shows something just towards the east of Bermuda. Yes, I hear it. So
wait, I know we'll talk about it. I know we will.
No, that's where we're going to now.
Oh, that's
this
where
is
we're
our
going next.
transition.
Okay.
Because I can't put this graphic on here and be like, well, hold on,
Professor, I've got questions.
So that's not Jerry, right?
Nope. That is not Jerry. Jerry is that small little blip out towards Bermuda, maybe further out. That's just a tiny little circle. There it is. That's Jerry. What the Euro is kind of triggering in on is something that might be extratropical, tropical or not. Because Hurricane Center has not put a yellow monitoring area over this, and there's various reasons why. But nonetheless, that European model and GFS 202, there is consistently showing a nice, strong, robust area of low pressure developing in southeast Florida, moving right up parallel, or maybe kind of at a 45-degree angle away from our coast, which is favorable for us for a couple of reasons. But the Outer Banks of North Carolina catching one of these lows along a front, so not tropical per se, more of the classic October nor'easter setup. As you get these fronts that move through and kind of stall out in some of these warmer waters, you do get cyclogenesis. You get the birth of a low. And here's what's happening.
And as far as our coastal impacts are concerned here, it doesn't really, I guess, it does matter if it's tropical or not. But the reality is, especially Thursday and Friday, we're going to be looking at these coastal showers up and down the coast of Florida. You have a tight pressure gradient, which is all these white lines you kind of see stacked up next to each other. So you're going to be looking at gusty coastal conditions. Another just kind of classic nor'easter setup, as Lou just mentioned. And the tides are already running high. We have the full harvest moon out there right now.
That's right. Yep. And supermoon.
And it's a supermoon. So what does that mean? Why is it a superhero?
Yeah, super. Good luck.
Good luck.
Made of cheese, etc. Perigee, so it's at its closest point in its orbit, the elliptical orbit around Earth. We're kind of at that point. And we get this. This is normal. And we get these higher than normal king tides. This time of year it happens, in fall. And we'll see it spring, about a foot above normal. That's without the nor'easter and without the atmospheric conditions we're getting. You add all that on top of it, and what we're seeing as we go through Thursday, Friday, and early Saturday morning, conditions will begin to really improve rapidly by Saturday, because this thing's going to move out at a pretty good clip. And that means we could have high tides about 2.5, maybe 3 feet above what would be normally dry land. And that becomes a step above maybe nuisance flooding to moderate flood. And then you're talking about areas, docks, boat ramps, properties that are fed by the tide or right along bodies of water that are tidally fed. So that does mean canals and tributaries of the Intracoastal and St. John's. It also means, think about some of those retention ponds. There are retention ponds that are connected, especially out at the beaches, tidally. So you've got the pipes that feed out to either the Intracoastal or to the ocean. And if that's tidal, and you notice an up and down phase with it at periods of the day, usually it's kind of right adjacent to marshes, those bodies of water will rise as well. So you got to think about anything that could be in your backyard, if you're close to the water, that would float away. Oof. Right? So secure those, maybe the trampoline might be a little heavy to float away, but things like that.
But also along the coast, we are going to be looking at some good winds, 20 to 30 miles per hour. So maybe
and that adds to it.
Weighting down the trampoline or flipping it over.
Ooh.
You never want to be that person
There's always that one.
There's always that one neighbor.
Yeah.
And their trampoline just keeps on ending up in your backyard.
Sure.
Like, if your trampoline's in my backyard, it's my trampoline now. That's my rule.
Don't break an ankle. I was having this conversation with Ross a couple weeks back with our previous nor'easter, because we've had a series of these kind of stalled out fronts. It's been a unique sort of late summer, early fall with this. And we were talking about the quintessential pictures that people will share when we get a good windstorm. Okay, so tropical or not. And one of those quintessential pictures is a bent upside down trampoline in a street. That's going to get shared. Maybe not for this particular event, but when it gets windy enough to lose a trampoline, that's one. Now, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is the quintessential snowstorm or snow event picture that people will share?
Ooh, that's a good one, because there's a few. I mean, a lot of times it's the snow on top of somebody's car.
Yes, snow on top of car. I'm going to take you to where I'm going. I always see snow on top of patio furniture.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean?
Of course,
you got the picnic table in the back deck. Oh my gosh! Look, I mean, you're stacking up your ruler. It's got 6 inches on my my back patio. You know?
It's usually in a snowdrift.
Sure. Yeah, it blew that way out exactly.
And but
it's pretty cool. So those are the quintessential pictures. I think if weather watchers sharing pictures, we're going to have full marshes. That'll be some interesting pictures at times of high tide for the next several days. So I think that's kind of our main impacts. Now, people, as we put up weather impact alerts for Thursday, Friday, because of these, big winds, waves of rain at the beach, and higher than normal tides. I want people to very aware that we're putting out the weather impact alert. Not necessarily. So if you're in White House, if you're in Lake City, if you're in McClenny, if those areas west of 301 and west, you're probably going to go through the days thinking, what are these guys talking about? And we've had a lot of that. We've had these weather impact alerts for waves of rain, and we're really having to focus in on our coastal and beach communities, really 95 and east. Certainly some rain can make it west because of this system.
But not, like, impactful.
Right.
Because I've been hearing this from people, like, in Lake City area, where it's just like, what are you talking about? It's been sunny.
Yeah. I got a coworker. We have a coworker, works in the evenings. Shout out Jimmy, who lives in White House, and he roasts me on a daily basis. He's like, "You were calling for rain." I said, "Well, he's calling for rain at the beach, but I get it, and maybe I need to communicate to you better specifically. I know White House didn't get any. I get it, but and that's west side of Duval. So we're talking a very sharp kind of gradient of the haves and have-nots when it comes to potential rainfall in this particular event.
And then if you get right on the beach, of course, we're even talking about rip currents, beach erosion, things like that out here. And it's not just our phenomena,
right?
But up and down the East Coast, we've been getting these nor'easters one after another. They're not really tropical, but they are having some sort of tropical-ish type impacts. For example, this is a video, if we could put up the video out of the Outer Banks. Now, Lou, I know you know more about this. Can you tell me what's going on here?
So in Outer Banks in North Carolina, because of erosion, they have built these homes on stilts that are literally on the sand. It's quite amazing to see on fair weather days, and you drive through your Outer Banks, Kill Devil Hills, and these communities. Really hard to get to. You're either taking a ferry over, you're driving hours going out on these 2-lane roads out to these Outer Banks beaches. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're very secluded, and homes literally built on the sand. Decades. I mean, these are generational homes. Like, these are families have had these, homes passed down for 100 years or thereabouts, and they have been fortified, and all built on stilts. But there just comes a time. Like with Imelda, this is Imelda, correct?
Yeah.
So Imelda passing close enough by to get some of those coastal impacts. I mean, look at all of the debris. I'm seeing, of course, my eyeball goes to the house that's ultimately being washed out.
But this debris is just everywhere.
But it's everywhere.
And from what I've heard and correct me if I'm wrong, because a lot of people are asking, why don't they just tear these down when the weather's kind of nicer? But from what I've heard is that a lot of these homes, these are $1 million homes, right?
Yeah.
So if they tear it down, they're not going to get the insurance.
No.
So, but if it falls into the ocean, they get the house completely paid for.
Oh,
so
interesting.
From an environmental standpoint, you're like, tear it down. But if they do that, then they lose the money that the house costs. So in many cases, they're just kind of waiting for these to collapse into the water.
That's interesting. I can't imagine if they were insured, the premium you're paying
goodness
annually.
gracious.
If your house is, at a high tide, the water is below their home. So if your house is below the high tide line, just on a normal day, I would imagine the insurance company. If you have insurance on a home like that and you're waiting, that's truly what you've been paying is unbelievable.
For real.
I know a lot of situations are that if you lose your home. Well, now, so they don't want to tear it down because they don't want to lose the property. But if you lose your home, collapse, for instance, if you were to tear it down, even in a fair weather time, this property's gone now because
because they own the land that the house is on.
Was on.
Yes.
And probably that property was purchased by a family that family decades and decades ago, 2-3 generations ago, when high tide maybe didn't reach that spot, right? Because no one logically would build a home.
And that's what we have to remind people is that those homes were, when they were originally built, because the land there is always changing.
Always changing.
That was like land.
Yeah.
It wasn't a beach.
We could certainly talk about sea level rise and climate change, things like that. But in reality, what's happened is that the Outer Banks are built to erode and to change. It's a chain of barrier islands that protects the mainland of North Carolina, and that's just the way it is. I grew up on the barrier islands of South Carolina, and while not to that extreme, there's a state park, Hunting Island State Park, that actually used to or had cabins built, like camp cabins up on stilts, right beyond past or what would be west of the dune line, so not on the beach per se.
Yeah.
But just in my lifetime as a young boy, we'd go over there and camp, or we'd stay in those cabins, or at least you'd go to the beach and you'd see those cabins. I would have been 10, 11 years old. And it's just been in my lifetime, 30 some years later, I have witnessed those homes collapsing into the ocean. So, and that's specifically because of erosion, specifically because of how the coastline is always changing in South Carolina and Florida, of course, too. But South Carolina and North Carolina kind of built like that with those unique chains of barrier islands. And and it's just a natural progression because some areas will erode and become that lovely beach that we like to lay out on. And then where the sand kind of migrates to and creates a longer beachfront, then you start to get maritime forests developing. You start to get marshland that develops with natural, when you don't have human development going on. You get detritus grass that ultimately becomes marsh grass that becomes kind of a mud flat, great for fish in fisheries. And then you start to see the pine trees to grow and develop. And then you get these nice maritime forests. It happens over eons. All right, or it can happen over 100 years, but that's the natural development. Now, what happens is guys like, Robert and I come along and it's like, this would be a nice place to build a home.
Yeah.
And then over a 50 to 100 year period, that beach changes, and that's just that's what's happened here. So in Florida, I can't speak to the laws. I can't remember. I know in South Carolina it's similar. Don't know about North Carolina, but I know in Florida, anything where high tide reaches, you can't own. It's everybody's.
But then the tide levels change. For example, like in Summer Haven, Old A1A area, and here on the First Coast, of course, there you have some of those tides changing. And it's kind of ending up like this, where the beach erosion is taking place.
Yep.
All right,
We went on a tangent, man. I could talk about. I could truly do an hour and a half talking about that because it absolutely fascinates me. And beach evolution and coastal evolution, I love it. It is a natural thing. It's the way the Earth was designed our coastline. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
And I think if you buy waterfront property, you're at risk of it. Plus,
100%.
You're at risk of just a straight up hurricane hitting you.
100%.
And just changing things dramatically.
And the reality is, you're not. The paycheck to paycheck guys aren't the ones out there buying the beachfront.
We're not buying that.
Right. It's the people that already have a few million in the bank, and a loss is okay. Well, hopefully is the way it is. Like if they just set their money on fire, it wouldn't hurt them. But anyway, that's essentially what happens.
All right,
Brutal.
let's talk about the broader picture
Sure.
here. We also have another area in the Gulf, 10%. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think it's a rainmaker.
It's a rainmaker, but it is indicative of what we need to be watching next. We've got Central American gyro kicking up, right? And we're seeing a perfect example of that. It's this counterclockwise spin that from Belize to Yucatan and thank you. I mean, kind of explaining kind of that spin. If you look at the wind barbs and the rain totals, yes, rainmaker for Mexico. There you go. This is really what this can do. I mentioned the big word cyclogenesis earlier. This will create what we're seeing now near the Yucatan, areas of low pressure that just kind of quickly spin in the Gulf, the Bay of Campeche, in the Gulf, Caribbean, and also on the Pacific side. So all of those areas, kind of like we see at the beginning of our hurricane season, towards the end of our hurricane season, now with 52 days left.
Goodness.
We start to see this being our main climatological zone. We got to watch.
And it was 1 year ago today.
Yep.
We were looking at Milton. In this exact area, just
Correct.
off the Yucatan. I think at this point it was already rapidly intensifying, but it shows, let's say this cloud cluster was even a couple hundred miles further towards the north in the central Gulf. I think we would be talking a little bit more about potential significant development. Since it's further towards the south, time is not on its side.
Correct.
Same with this one. This is Priscilla out here off the coast of Baja California. It's getting the drier, kind of weakening into it, or working into it. But you know what I see with this one here, Lou, is that I think this moisture is going to lift towards north and be a problem for the southwest.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah, flash flooding. Yeah, potential flash flooding certainly, as will probably be extratropical by the time it works its way there. Going to fight a few obstacles between that drier air that the Southwest United States for, but cooler water temperatures. But yeah, I could see a nice blob of some downpours, and it doesn't take too much for that. Although they can get a lot, it doesn't take too much rainfall to cause some significant problems.
Let's bounce over to the other side of the Pacific now.
Tokyo.
Yeah, there you go. This is
Japan.
Cat 4 at one point here. Typhoon Halong. Right near the Izu Islands. So this is south of Tokyo. Tokyo's probably not going to be directly impacted by this, but these are just beautiful islands, by the way. See all these little ones just towards the south? Like 30,000 people live on them.
Okay.
Problem is they are volcanic.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to say there's going to be a volcanic eruption here, but the volcanic soil is very loose.
Yeah. Mudslides.
Exactly. Mudslides, landslides. In fact, I was talking with Lee, about this yesterday. The kind of the bigger one right in here, that is Oshima. About 15 years ago, I remember this because I covered it, there was a massive landslide. Several hundred people died during a typhoon much like this. So it is problematic for that area. I wouldn't call it a fish storm, but the good news, it is kind of missing the mainland there and staying just offshore, and eventually it's going to head out to sea. You know what else this can do, though? And I'm not going to get too much on the tangent here, but sometimes when they get the storms this far north about this time of year, it starts to mess with the jet stream.
Oh, yeah.
And look for a cold snap here on the first coast or across the southeast, for that matter, in about a week from now.
Yeah.
Which
it seems to be lining up.
Yeah, it could be this is part of the catalyst for all that, because what happens is basically, think if you take a rope and you snap the rope and you get those little waves in it.
Yep.
This is the snap right here, and it causes waves in the jet stream, which eventually can work its way back over towards the United States. This, though, I want to end with this.
Nice.
This is from the ISS. What do you think?
It's unbelievable.
Right.
The pictures that those astronauts get up there. Now, is this an astronaut taking photo?
Yes.
Or is this?
This is an astronaut. I think Johnny. I forgot his last name.
Oh, Johnny. Well done. And lining up the eye of that storm.
Oh,
it's just unreal. And how clear you can see the ocean below it. I mean,
little mesovorts in it.
Yep.
Just.
And it truly is. you think about the eye of a hurricane, and you hear how stark contrast, that calm that happens kind of in the middle as the eye. I mean, it's not exaggeration. I know you can have issues within the eye, but it truly just ceases and then picks right back up again. It's not over with. But this is such a beautiful example. And what would be a very devastating hurricane should it hit land. But like Robert's saying, looks like it'll curve out. That's amazing.
It is just the wall, and that's why we literally call it an eye wall, because you can just see it's a wall right around that center of circulation. So.
Have you penetrated before on a?
I haven't. I know you have, right?
Having done it, it is phenomenal. To truly, just like you're flying, you're bouncing, it's awful, this is hell, I'm going to crash into the ocean, yada, 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 and those guys are pros. It doesn't happen. I mean, they were all relaxed, and I'm thinking to myself, this is it. And then boom, and you're seeing a sunset, or the beautiful, clear conditions. It's wild.
I would love to do it.
Yeah, sign up.
Maybe once.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah.
Those guys.
That was a 15, 16-hour flight day.
Woo.